Section 9.3 is all about Andrew Jackson and his presidency. He was president from 1829 to 1837, so he's going to serve 2 terms as president. He was born in 1767 and raised by a single mother who was a housekeeper. So Andrew Jackson is going to be our first president who's going to come from a background that does not include money. At the age of 20, he earned a license to practice law, where he moved to Tennessee and got married. He's going to buy a plantation and he's going to name it the Hermitage. And on that plantation, over time, he is going to have over 100 slaves. He's a very quick temper and he loved to get in a fight. He's going to enter the presidency with 2 bullets lodged in his body. Those bullets that cannot be removed at that time because of medical reasons. They fear that if they remove them, he would die. In the election of 1828, there are a lot of vicious personal attacks on both sides. Andrew Jackson is going to run for the Democrats. He supports a very small government, individual liberties, the expansion of the military, because he was a fighter. But he also was a major white supremacist. He was a major racist in his own right. He's called a jackass in the press, and that's why the donkey today is the representative symbol for the Democrats. For the Republicans, John Quincy Adams is going to run for the Republicans, and he's running for re-election. But he's very much an elitist and a career politician. So he is dealing with that failed first term, those issues with the corrupt bargain that happened with him during his first term. So he's going to lose the presidency. Andrew Jackson is considered to be the president of the common man because he does not come from money. He comes from a situation where his family did not have very much. By 1824, 21 of the 24 states have eliminated property requirements to vote. Half of all free black men could vote as well. And when it comes to labor politics, they're going to form up the Working Man's Party, which is there to support Andrew Jackson. The Working Man's Party is concerned with the widening inequality of wealth. They want to promote free education, public school systems. They want to get rid of debtors' prisons so that you would not go to jail if you owed a debt to someone. And also to promote the 10-hour workday. Politics at this time became very much like entertainment. A lot of newspapers sensationalized the type of person that Andrew Jackson was, as well as the bickering that's going to happen between politicians at that time. He's going to begin the presidency, and with this idea that the presidency is more important than Congress. At various times in our history, various presidents have felt various different ways. But Andrew Jackson really feels that the presidency is more superior than Congress. He's going to use the spoil system to reward his supporters, those individuals who supported him for election. He wants a few things. He wants to cut spending. At one point in his presidency, he will pay off the national debt, which will cause a problem. He wants to support internal improvements so that we can grow our highway system. He wants to support tariffs on foreign goods. He wants to absolutely get rid of the Bank of the United States because he has had massive problems with banknotes, and he wants to deal with Indian removal. Indian removal itself is one of the key things in his election campaign. Now, in the beginning of his presidency, he deals with what is known as the Petticoat Affair. Margaret Eaton, this woman right here, she starts out as, her name is Peggy. She marries Captain John Timberlake, so Peggy Timberlake. Peggy was raised as a friend of the family of the Jacksons. So Andrew Jackson really sees Margaret as his little sister. He treats her like that. And so what is going to happen is Peggy marries John Timberlake, but while her husband's away at sea because he's in the Navy, she's going to spend a lot of time with a few people. But she really latches on to Senator John Eaton. They get really, really close. She was considered to be a huge flirt, and possibly more. Gossip is everywhere. Women who are married to prominent men in Congress are going to call her a whore, ignore her, and really push their husbands to stay away from Peggy Timberlake and anyone who associates with her. Then her husband is going to die at sea, and within a very short period of time, she marries Senator Eaton. So now she's Peggy Eaton, Margaret O'Neill Eaton. And this is just going to make things even worse, as people are going to say you can't, these women are going to push their husbands to not interact with Senator Eaton. But because Jackson very much supports Peggy as his little sister, he defends her. He's mad that women are mixing politics with social life, and he comes to Peggy's defense, and he sends Peggy off to the Hermitage. Andrew Jackson had lost his wife right before he was inaugurated as president, and so he has no one out at the Hermitage to take care of things. So he sends Peggy out there. And this is going to lead to a split within Washington. Those who support Jackson and those who are going to shun Peggy and Senator Eaton. It comes to a point where Jackson himself goes to Tennessee quite a lot. And there in the Hermitage, he has parties and things, and he brings people to him out to these parties. And people like Martin Van Buren, who will be his second vice president. Those who are willing to talk to Jackson. And we have what is known as the kitchen sink cabinet. And the kitchen cabinet is just basically those people who came to the Hermitage to Tennessee to talk with Andrew Jackson and figure things out. And they made major decisions away from Washington, D.C. So this is going to overshadow some of the things he has. But there are other things that happen in his presidency that are just as important. The number one thing is Indian removal. Jackson wants the forced removal of Indians. It was his highest priority in his election. He's been negotiating treaties with Indian leaders for over 10 years before his election as president. During the election, he urged Congress to pass a bill that would send them west of the Mississippi River. During Thomas Jefferson's presidency, he had received a report that said that there was an area out west that was unsuitable for human life. And Andrew Jackson chose that area, Oklahoma, to send Native Americans to. The Indian Removal Act will be passed in 1830. And it involved basically the ethnic cleansing of several Indian tribes. The federal government would pay for Indians to be moved westward. They said that they would give support to Native Americans when they get to these new lands. We really don't. Many in Congress are going to criticize the act in public, but in private they're going to pass it anyway. There's going to be some resistance to it. We have the Black Hawk War in April of 1832. 1,000 Sauk Indians are going to return across the Mississippi River in hopes to return back to their native area. Soldiers will be sent to corral them up and then take them back across the Mississippi River. But instead of doing so, they felt that that would just take too long. So instead, they gathered them all up, and that is the result of the Bad Axe Massacre, where they just decided to kill every one of them instead of returning them. That way, they didn't spend 3 months returning them back across the Mississippi River. It happened within a 3-day period, and then they returned back to D.C. Then the Seminoles have been resisting us for over 8 years at that time, because Jackson, during the War of 1812, he had already ticked many people off by invading Florida to begin with in the War of 1812. So they still hate Jackson from that. So now, as resistance in the 1830s, over 1,000 individuals are going to die. In 1837, Osceola, who's a Seminole chief, is going to be captured, and then he will be thrown in prison where he will just be left to die. They don't really take care of him. And so that is going to kind of suppress the Seminoles as well. The major group that they want to remove, though, is the Cherokee Indians. In 1827, they're going to adopt a constitution and send it to Congress in hopes that the Cherokee can have their own nation. It will be ignored. Then in June of 1830, there is a Georgia law that comes out that says Indians are not allowed to vote, they're not allowed to own property, and they're not allowed to testify against a white person. At the end of 1830, gold will be found in upstate Georgia and smack dab in the middle of Cherokee land. And they want that for themselves. So Georgia is going to pass a law that says the Cherokee cannot dig it up. The Supreme Court will support Native Americans, and twice they'll rule in favor of them. But Jackson, who hates Native Americans, will refuse to enforce the ruling. And he basically tells the Cherokee either abide by the Georgia law or they can relocate. In 1838, it finally comes to a point where Jackson sends troops to that of Georgia and forcibly removes them. The strategy was to divide and conquer the Cherokee. They're going to send a fake treaty to them, the Treaty of New Escoda, and it's going to be rejected by the Cherokee. It basically listed what the government would give them if they moved. Now, the Cherokee know that it's a lie. That this is just a piece of paper that lists a bunch of stuff that the American government really isn't going to follow. And so they're going to reject it. In 1838, 17,000 Cherokee Indians will be forcibly evicted and moved westward. They go 800 miles. They have to walk to Oklahoma. They weren't provided with wagons or anything like that. Over 4,000 of them will die along the way. Small groups will break off and try to hide in the mountains, and some of them are successful when they run to North Carolina, but the majority of them are moved. After they get the Cherokee moved, the Creek and the Chickasaw are the next group. In all, roughly 100,000 Indians will be removed to the west. The government will then take the over 100 million acres that they took, and they're going to sell it to cotton growers and make a really big profit. As all of this is going on, there's also a situation where in the South, they're trying to suppress the mail. So there's a lot of censoring in the mail. Slavery will emerge as a very big volatile issue as these individuals move westward into this cotton land. Anti-slavery pamphlets will be sent to Southern plantation owners. The Southern legislature then passes state laws banning the pamphlets in the South, censoring what could be in the mail. Some abolitionists will begin sending petitions to Congress in hopes that that will help. And not only are they petitioning for that, get rid of slavery, there's several individuals in the North are petitioning to end the Indian removal. They're all tabled by the Senate Majority Leader, and Congress doesn't even discuss it. So there is nothing the American people can really do. It is the law, and it will be followed. So the next section, 9.4, is all about the nullification crisis and the war with the bank.